I've always been an advocate of a woman as a VP because I think you have some strong women. Although Kristi Noem, I think is maybe a little too based, shooting the puppy in the gravel.
Yeah, that was not ideal. Yeah, that was not ideal.
I got to ask you. That's
I read that. I was like, who put that in the book? Like, I think I was like, your ghostwriter must really not like you if they're gonna include that one. That was rough.
Wow.
It seems like the backlash after South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem's book transcripts have begun to circulate is now bipartisan. While Noem spent the entirety of this week doing damage control for speaking her truth, there are apparently parts of her book that are blatantly untrue. The Dakota Scout, a local newspaper in Noem's home state, did a little digging into her accounts about two world leaders, including North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un. Here's the passage in question. Through my tenure on the House Armed Services Committee, I had the chance to travel to many countries to meet with world leaders. I remember when I met with North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un. I'm sure he underestimated me, having no clue about my experience staring down little tyrants. I'd been a children's pastor, after all. She also wrote about how last year's governor, she apparently canceled a meeting with French President Emmanuel Macron. But according to the Scout, neither account has been verified by congressional travel documents or outside sources reviewed by the paper. They also confirmed with the French president's office that Macron never had a meeting scheduled with Noem. Noem served on the House Armed Services Committee from 2013 to 2015. During that period, committee members, including Noem, visited China in 2014, but there is no record of Kim being in China then. After assuming the role of supreme leader in North Korea in 2011, Kim did not leave North Korea until 2018, says University of Notre Dame professor and North Korea expert George Lopez. According to Lopez, it would have been nearly impossible for Noem's account to be true. I don't see any conceivable way that a single junior member of Congress without explicit escort from the US State Department and military would be meeting with a leader from North Korea. What would have been so critical in his bag of tricks that he would have met with an American lawmaker, this one distinctively? But wait, there is more. Because Noem also tells a story in her book saying she was threatened by Nikki Haley. According to Noem, she says Nikki Haley called her in the summer of 2021 to introduce herself, offer mentorship to Noem on governorship, but it quickly turned sour. After what seemed to me a bit of an awkward pause, Nikki Haley added, I just also want you to know one more thing. I've heard a lot of really good things about you, but I also want you to know that if I hear something bad, I will be sure to let you know. After processing the threat, Noem called her assistant, telling her Nikki Haley only thought there was room for one Republican woman in the spotlight. Noem ended with, unsurprisingly, I never received any calls or mentoring from her, but the message was clear. I'm the alpha female here, and you should know your place. I actually felt a little bit sad for her. Politico reached out to Nikki Haley's spokesperson for comment, and apparently while they did talk, it was in 2020. Nikki has long called and written notes supporting other women when they go through challenging times. She called Governor Noem in 2020 to encourage her when she was criticized for keeping her state open during COVID. How she would twist that into a threat is just plain weird. Noem's spokesperson, Ian Fury, has also conceded the Kim Jong-un story was false, telling Politico last night, we've been made aware that the publisher will be addressing conflated world leaders' names in the books before it is released. Kristi Noem's book isn't even out yet, but at this point, maybe she should just take it out to the gravel pit and put it down. What do you think, Cenk?
Pausing here to deliver some honest truth as we do in our news coverage as well. TYT is facing challenges, guys, as the entire industry is. You know who could make the difference? You. If you hit the join button below, it's gonna make all the difference and keep us in business. We appreciate you, thank you.
I think there's two layers here. One is kind of standard fare political lying, which is the Nikki Haley story. You know, if you don't know how greasy politicians are, you might be surprised by that one too. Even if you just take her quotes, Noem's quotes about what Nikki Haley said as true, it still didn't sound like a threat at all. Like she just made that up. And so, but that's pretty standard fare. Oh, she said this, but I didn't think she meant that, and I'm better than her, right? And then there's the second layer, which is, let's make up that I met with the North Korean leader. let's make up something about the French leader. You don't think anybody's gonna check? And why would you bother putting that in the book? And just think about how crazy you have to be to just have that come into your mind out of nowhere when it didn't happen and decide to put it down in your book. Like, it's like if I as I was writing Justice Coming, if I was like, I met with the Pope. Why would I say that when I didn't meet with him? It's so weird. Politicians are such huge liars that it's like, it's almost a mental condition. Like, it's pathological. I mean, not only she didn't blurt it out, she thought it through, came up with a weirdo lie, or actually several, and then decided to write it down in her book. That's amazing to me. They're just not like us. They're different shameless creatures that haunt us.
There's two things here. There is the vanity and narcissism and absurdity lying in every single politician. We get that. I'm just wondering, who in the hell is this publisher? Because Cenk, as I'm sure you know, like if you try to publish a book via Random House or something, and you said you gave some kid a Snickers in 3rd grade, they try to verify this. They will try to fact check everything they put in a book, specifically an autobiography, right? And so that's what people tend to lie about, as Cenk said, like, somebody be like, oh, they used to diss my haircut and say that I walked funny and I would get bullied and I overcame it and this and that. And they tend to lie about their myth making and origin story, their villain origin story. But you can't just say a world leader once had you on their calendar, much less that you actually met them, and lie. It sounds like the publisher got with it and was like, yeah, we want to go through the checklist of things that we think would be cool that for you have done. Like, did you meet any like world leaders or whatever? Yeah. Kim Jong-un. I think I went to China once and I saw in East Asia, and I don't remember. Yeah, throw that. It's just so nasty and sloppy. And this is before we even get to the idea that a book where you're supposed to be convincing American people to like you, where you admit, you confess to murdering a puppy. I mean, this is just the height of ridiculousness.
Yeah, let me just address that real quick. So on the fact checking on my book, man, it was fact checked at least 4 times over. Some of the facts felt like it was fact checked 8 times over. There's over 30 pages of endnotes at the end. Every single thing in there has been verified over and over again. And I did wonder, does everybody go through this, or is this reserved just for people who are not esteemed politicians or something? Because, I mean, obviously they didn't fact check Kristi Noem's book. I mean, that's so. It's amazing, and part of the like media makes it seem like, oh, if you're like have status, like you're a senator, you're governor, etc., you're more trustworthy. Oh, hell no, you're way less trustworthy, right? So, anyways, and then the other thing is that on the puppy, what I found really interesting about that is not that she shot the puppy, although that is just a disaster, right? It's that she thought Republican voters would think that was badass. And that's why she put it in the book, right? She was like, yeah, they'll think it's, as Bannon put it, based. Like, I'm so cool that I hate, I'll murder a puppy. That's how cool I am. And thought that Republicans would be like, yes, way to murder puppies. That's how little she thinks of her voters. And by the way, give credit to Republican voters, they didn't seem to like it too much. They also like their dogs, which makes them feel like way more human than any other story we've ever done.
Yeah. The tone deaf and just lack of awareness around that story is certainly something to talk about. But also, I was listening to a synthesis of her book based on the excerpts we have now. There's another story in there about her dad. Her dad playing a prank on somebody who was disabled and telling this guy that he just cooked up squirrel that they had. They had hunted squirrel and they cooked up squirrel for him. And he fed this guy his own cat. Apparently he killed this guy's cat and then fed it to him.
Oh my
and it just like runs in the, yeah. I just heard this on the way to the studio. It's horrifying. It's like runs in the, it's a family of psychopaths.
God.
This
even if that were
a
true,
horror movie.
Yeah, it's a horror movie.
Yeah.
Like, even if that were true of anyone I knew, I would never write that in a book.
Yeah, why would you brag
Like,
about that?
Like, I remember the good old days when Pops would murder cats and then feed it to their owner. Oh, that's a good one. You want to come in? No, I do not. I do not want to come in. She thought this is prime Republican VP material.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's all about her quest to be Trump's VP. And even a guy who doesn't like dogs was like, nah, too much.
I say this all the time. It feels like oftentimes Republican politicians have more contempt for their voters than anybody else. Like they really do think when they try to pander to their voters so many times, man, it's just like, wow, you guys think Republican voters are the literal, actual scum of the earth. And that's how you go about courting these people by telling them you murder dogs and that your dad kills cats, then feeds them to their owners. Like, man, do they hate Republican voters.
They must think that their own voters are psychopaths.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, I thought the Democratic Party hated their base, but you're right, Waz. The Republican politicians might think even more poorly of their base.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.